Welcome to What is Truth, brought to you by the Southern New Mexico Church of God in Las Cruces, New Mexico. What is Truth is a weekly program which seeks to focus our attention on the truth of God's Word. Now, with this week's lesson, here's Pastor Meyer Stahl.
Welcome to the program. Last week we talked about, should a Christian not eat pork? Why should a Christian not eat pork? There's reasons why. Now, back in the Old Testament, Leviticus 11 is the list of unclean animals. Now, did God change those animals that were unclean? Unclean means not fit for human consumption. Did God change those animals that they're okay now for a Christian to eat those animals, especially pork? Pork is one of the biggest of the unclean animals listed back in the Old Testament. And a lot of Christians believe that this sheet that came down from heaven, God sent a sheet down with all manners of unclean animals on it, told Peter to kill and eat, and 3 times Peter refused. He says, "Not so, Lord. I've never eaten anything common or unclean." And then God said, what I have cleansed, call not you unclean. Did God clean animals? Are those animals that are unclean, means not fit for human consumption? Are they now fit for human consumption? Well, if you missed last week's program, please send away, call us, and get a DVD for free. Now, we have 2 very important booklets that we're offering this week. Now, the first is called, What Do You Mean Salvation? And at the bottom of the booklet, it says, do you realize not 1 in 100 knows what it is, how to get it, when you receive it? Don't be too sure you do. Here, once and for all, is the truth made so plain you will really understand it. What could be more important to you than your salvation? What could be more important to you than your salvation? What you're going to be doing for all eternity. The second booklet is, Why Do You Observe Sunday? Now, a lot of people think Sunday is the 7th day of the week. It's actually the 1st. Okay, look at a calendar and you'll see. Which day did Christ and the apostles observe? Which day did Paul teach Gentile converts to observe? How did the day become changed from the 7th to the 1st day of the week? 1 Thessalonians 5:21 commands us to prove all things. I ask you to please read this booklet with an open mind. If you are already right, honest investigation will but confirm it. If you are wrong, you should want to know it. Well, these 2 booklets are free. You can have a DVD of this program for free. We have nothing to sell on the program. We never ask the public for money. Let's go to the Bible. Let's go to 3 John. It's in the back of your Bible before you get to Revelation. It's called 3rd Epistle of John. And in verse 1, it says, the elder unto the well-beloved Gaius, whom I love in the truth. So he's talking about truth here. Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So he wished good health on Gaius, and also we also should enjoy good health. Why is it now there's so many hospitals being built, So many new doctors, thousands and thousands of new doctors coming out of medical school. All kinds of brand new medicines and all kinds of treatments and all kinds of sick people, more sick people than there ever has been. Why are there so many sick people today? Could it be because of their diet? Could it be because of what they're eating? You know, you go into the markets and you see all these packages of pork, and it looks good. It really looks good. And there's absolutely nothing that smells like bacon on the grill, and there's nothing that smells like fresh sliced boiled ham. Just to smell it, it smells so good. But if you would walk into a rendering plant, and I walked into a rendering plant in Philadelphia that slaughtered hogs, the smell was so horrible, I almost threw up, and I had to walk out and go back outside. I couldn't go inside anymore. The stench was unbelievable. Well, let's go to the Bible. Let's understand the Bible. We're going to go back over Acts chapter 10. We're going to go back over Acts chapter 10 with Peter and the sheep. And in case you missed it last week, we'll go back over it. Let's read now in verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band. He was a soldier, a devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, that's about 3 p.m., an angel of God coming in to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Your prayers and your alms are come up for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. So this was Simon Peter. He lodges with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell you what you ought to do. So Cornelius sent two of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things to them, he sent them to Joppa. And on the morrow, that's the very next day, as they went on their journey, they drew nigh unto the city, and Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. So this is noon. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. And he saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth and wild beasts. Wild beasts are generally not kosher, not clean. And creeping things, they're definitely not clean. And fowls of the air, the fowls of the air, most of them are not clean. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Now here's the kicker, right here. And the voice spoke unto him again the second time, What God has cleansed, that call not common. So most people stop right there and say, well, you see here, God cleansed the pigs and the other unclean animals, and we can eat anything we want today. This was done 3 times, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision, which he had seen, should mean, behold, men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. This was not a coincidence. God had timed it, actually perfect timing, and called and answered whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. And while Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek you. Arise therefore and get you down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. This is the rest of the story we need to read. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause wherefore you are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that fears God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by a holy angel to send for you into his house and to hear words of you. Then called he them in and lodged them. So they spent the night there, and on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. So he had witnesses. The certain brethren were witnesses with him. And on the morrow, after they entered into Caesarea, Cornelius waited for them, and he called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him, fell down at his feet, and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself am also a man. And as he talked with them, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man who is a Jew to keep company or come into one of another nation. See, I'm not supposed to be here. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. That's what the sheet of the unclean animals meant. That God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So, we're going to come back very shortly. We're going to take a short intermission. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
Is your treasured dining room table in danger? Don't let scratches, spills, or hot plates ruin your beautiful dining table. Table pads are normally hundreds of dollars, but right now you get a custom table pad for only $69, an unheard of price. Our table pads are hand upholstered, just like the ones Grandma had.
Call now to order your custom table pads for only $69 and receive a $30 protective storage bag free. Call 800-631-9229.
Welcome back to the program. In case you tuned in late, our program concerns pork. Should a Christian not eat pork? Why should a Christian not eat pork? Well, we explained the sheet that came down from heaven that Peter said, that the Lord said, kill and eat, and Peter refused 3 times. And then he realized that he should not call a man common or unclean. At that time, the Jews had nothing to do with Gentiles. They would call them dogs, and they had nothing to do with them. And now God was bringing Gentiles into the church. Now we're going to look at Matthew chapter 4, the words of Jesus, Matthew 4, verse 3. And when the tempter came to him, that Satan came to Jesus, he said, if you be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. There was no New Testament at that time. The only words that proceeded out of the mouth of God were the Old Testament. So the Old Testament laws were still in effect. And Jesus said that man should live by them. And we're going to go to Matthew chapter 8, and we're going to see here an episode that Jesus was involved in with swine. Matthew chapter 8 in verse 28. And it says here in Matthew 8 verse 28, and when he was come to the other side in the country of the Gergesenes, there met him 2 possessed with demons, devils or demons, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with you, Jesus, you Son of God? Are you come here to torment us before the time? Okay, so he said there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. So the demons, the devils, besought him, saying, if you cast us out, suffer us, permit us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said, go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea and perished in the waters. Well, Jesus killed 2 birds with 1 stone. He got rid of the demons in the men, and he got rid of the swine. He got rid of the pork. And they that kept them fled and went their ways into the city, and told everything and what was befallen to the possessed of the demons. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. Do you think they came out to welcome him? And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast. They wanted him gone. They wanted to chase him out, get rid of him. Why? Because he took away their livelihood. They would raise these swine, these pigs. They would raise them and they would sell them, and that was their livelihood. So they were out there feeding them, and Jesus caused them to run over a cliff and all get drowned in the water, and that was the end of their livelihood. So they didn't want Jesus to stay anymore. Now I have here some articles by Dr. McCullough. Now it may be too small for you to see the print, but I'll read it to you. Dr. McCullough says, why I do not recommend pork nearly 70% contaminated with dangerous pathogens. Nearly 70% of all pork is contaminated with deadly pathogens. The story at a glance. According to Consumer Reports, 69% of all raw pork samples tested were contaminated with a dangerous bacteria, Yersinia enterococcica. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Yersinia enterococcica, which can cause fever and gastrointestinal illnesses. Ground pork was more likely than pork chops to be contaminated. Wow. The pork also tested positive for other contaminants. More than 20% of the samples contained the controversial drug ractopamine, which is banned in many countries, including Europe and China. Even in China, this controversial drug, ractopamine, is banned. What does that do? That fattens the pigs up, but it's not healthy for human beings. Now, Dr. McCullough says here, let's read a little further, regardless of your spiritual beliefs, there may be good reason to carefully consider your decision to include pork as a regular part of your diet, because despite advertising campaigns trying to paint pork as a healthy alternative to beef, research suggests it may be hazardous to your health on multiple levels. One of the most potentially acute hazards is contamination with pathogenic bacteria. Wow, this is incredible. According to a surprising new investigation by Consumer Reports, 69% of all raw pork samples tested, nearly 200 samples, nearly 200 of them in total, were contaminated with the dangerous bacteria Yersinia enterococcica, which causes fever and gastrointestinal illnesses with diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach cramps. Wow, this is incredible. There's so much more. Look it up on the web. Google it. Google Dr. Mercola and why I do not recommend pork. Google it on your own computer. Read the entire thing, and it is unbelievable how hazardous pork is to your health. And read chapter 11 of the book of Leviticus that outlines all of the unclean animals, meaning those not fit for consumption. Why don't you call us today? Why don't you call us on the phone and ask for these two very important booklets? What do you mean salvation? And the second booklet is, why do you observe Sunday? This is the last week we're offering these booklets. It's your last chance to get these booklets. Please order them today. And we have an interactive Bible study every Saturday at 1 o'clock at 1701 East Missouri. Bring your Bible, a notebook, a pen, and bring your questions. We love to answer questions. So you may have some questions. It doesn't have to be the subject about the Bible study. It could be on any subject. If you have questions, bring them. We'll be happy to answer them. Well, until next time, this is Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God saying goodbye, my friends.
You have been listening to What is Truth with Pastor Meyer Stahl of the Southern New Mexico Church of God, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico. For copies of today's lesson or for more information, call area code 575-650-7359. That's 575-650-7359. Join us next week at this same time for another edition of What is Truth? Until next week, we wish you God's richest blessings.